In the Far East, they have something called the Chinese bamboo tree. Now, the Chinese bamboo tree takes 5 years to sprout, and for it to sprout properly, they have to water and fertilize the ground where it's planted every single day, and it doesn't break through the ground until the 5th year. But once it breaks through the ground within 5 weeks, it grows to 90 feet tall. Now, the question is, does it grow 90 feet tall in 5 weeks or 5 years, right? And it's an interesting question, and it's a good analogy to one of the most important keys to success. And what I've observed and calculated with, a ton of detail is, and not only just with myself, but also with 10,000 plus of my students who've come through my programs, the people who get the best results and change everything and change their lives and have massive earth-shattering transformations, it always happens with the mindset stuff, not just the tactical and strategy stuff. And trust me when I tell you, I was the person who said, ugh, mindset stuff. Can we please just get to the tactics? That's why I'm here, to learn about exactly how to do this. I don't care about all this fluffy, mindset stuff. That is how I used to think. And when I had that thought pattern, I didn't achieve anything of real worth. And that is when I actually began to study myself and my choices and the cause and effect relationship. And what happened was I began to really reflect and study myself. And that is when I began to make really massive transformations. And regardless of how you feel about mindset, I really encourage you to let go of any negative sentiments or feelings of uselessness or dread concerning learning about mindset and about your own mind, because it really is the most important thing. And trust me when I tell you, how you do one thing in life is how you do everything. So if you skip this video, you probably skip other things in life, and your results and where you're at right now probably reflect that. And I'll admit, this is going to be a lot of information in just one video. If I were you, I would watch it, right? Take notes and then watch it again and just listen. Find somewhere comfortable and just listen to this video. You really want to go through this multiple times, because this video, and I really mean it when I say this, has the ability and has the tools to enable you to completely change your life. Because what happens is someone will just work at just the logical, tactical stuff. They'll get frustrated and they'll get burnt out, or they'll lose focus, or they'll drift back to their comfort zone or their old habits or the patterns that their brain was used to. But once you can actually reach someone in their core and change their perspective and their worldview, even just a fraction of a tiny bit, all of a sudden you unlock, massive lifelong transformations. And I used to just teach tactics, and I noticed that people just weren't getting the massive results that I knew that they could get with the information I was teaching them. They would just understand the tactics, but because they didn't believe in the tactics or believe in themselves, they wouldn't implement them consistently. And even if they understood the tactics, but they didn't feel worthy of success or that they were capable of breaking out of their comfort zone, right? And if you believe you'll be successful and work hard, you will be successful. If you're planning for anything else, you won't be successful. It's really as simple as that. And sometimes, I know that sounds a little bit meta or out there, but it's one of the most meaningful things I can possibly teach you. What you think is what you think about. And before you, roll your eyes and gloss over, just let me explain, right? Whatever we think is what we end up thinking about. And then whatever we think about is what we think, and then what we think is what we think about. And it's this never-ending cycle, right? These are called feedback cycles, and they can either spiral negatively or they can spiral positively. And let me give you a couple of examples really to cement this, right? If someone is feeling depressed, right, they generally don't feel like going outside. They don't want to go out and talk to anyone because, they feel depressed. And because they don't want to talk to anyone, they get sad and they feel lonely, right? And because they're lonely, they get more depressed. And it's this vicious downward feedback cycle, right? And we see this in the real world all the time. Another example, nothing increases the price of a stock more than an increase in the price of a stock, right? If a stock price goes up, then it's likely to go up more. If a stock price goes down, then it's likely to go down more. This is why stocks can just start spiking like crazy, and why they can also drop like crazy, right? Or think about when people start to leave a party. Once one person leaves, then a couple people leave, then all of a sudden everyone leaves, right? Think about when people start clapping. When somebody starts clapping, all of a sudden a couple people start clapping, then the whole stadium's clapping. These are examples of this everywhere. It's feedback cycles. Right? An example that's probably most relevant is a feedback cycle of what I like to call self-worth and deservingness, right? And let me give you a very clear example to illustrate this. So many years ago, I had a math teacher who today, I honestly can't even remember her name. She's completely meaningless in the overall, scheme of my life, but she had a very profound impact on my early life. One day she told me that I was bad at math, right? And I believed that. Why wouldn't I? I was a kid. She was my teacher. She was the authority figure. And when she said that, it set off a negative feedback spiral in my life. It formed a thought in my mind, which formed into a belief, which then ultimately became my reality. And how we can use this in our own lives is we either have positive feedback cycles or we have negative ones. And this is so incredibly important to understand because it literally happens everywhere in your life. Think about it like this, another example, because I want to give a lot of examples to really make this as clear as I possibly can. Think about, a man out there who all of a sudden gets attention from a beautiful woman for the first time in his life, right? That gives him confidence that, if this beautiful woman is interested in him, maybe other women might be. And because of the confidence that he got from talking to that, beautiful woman and her being interested in him, all of a sudden he has that confidence, which makes other beautiful women interested in him, and it's a positive feedback cycle, right? What you think is what you think about, and what you think about becomes your belief, and what you believe with enough work becomes your reality, which reinforces your original thought, right? And I know that's kind of a lot. I'm going to say it one more time. What you think is what you end up thinking about, right? And what you think about becomes your beliefs. And what you believe with enough work, right, enough consistent action taking and work, what you believe becomes your reality, right? And then that reality reinforces what you originally thought, right? And one tiny meaningless thought can set off a spiral and can make somebody very depressed and broken, right? If it's a negative feedback spiral, or it can make somebody confident and unbreakable. And this can happen relatively quickly. And think about it like this. If I hadn't made that one tiny, seemingly insignificant decision to quit my job at PwC and give this entrepreneurship thing a try, you probably wouldn't be hearing this, right? The thousands of people whose lives have completely changed because of my YouTube and books and training and the communities that I've created, they might still be trapped in their 9-to-5 job. Right? They might have found other mentors, they might have not, but I would never have generated tens of millions of dollars in just over 2 years had I not made that one tiny, insignificant at the time decision to leave my 9-to-5 job and to really give entrepreneurship a try, right? If you hadn't made the decision to join this course that you're in right now, and if you don't make the decision to actually stick with it, maybe you always stick with things that you set your mind to. If you do, right, you're in very rare company, or maybe this course is going to start the first upward feedback cycle that is going to completely change your life, because for the first time you really are going to stick to it, block out other distractions, block out the noise, and really make something very meaningful happen. But if you hadn't have made the decision, right, the tiny, insignificant, in the grand scheme of the universe decision to join this course, a year from now, everything could be completely different, right? A year from now, if you hadn't have joined, maybe you'd be in the same place you are right now. Or a year of, extremely hard work and dedication to the craft and to the course and what you learn inside of this program, a year from now, you could be retired. Right? You could be working entirely from home, spending all the time you want with your family and your friends and traveling the world and doing the things you want, right? Because you can have everything you want with the proper mindset and taking consistent action. That is a fact, right? I'm not just saying that, I've proven it, and I've seen so many of my students prove it as well, and they all have one thing in common, right? And that is the correct mindset. And this same exact ideal holds true in every facet of your life, right? Think about how you met your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your wife or your husband, right? It all started out with one tiny, seemingly insignificant decision to start a conversation, right? To walk up to them, to buy them a beer, right? Maybe to talk to them at a coffee shop. And that little conversation, whether it was in school or at work or wherever it was, right? That tiny, insignificant conversation flourished into what's now, hopefully one of the most important things in your life. That is the power of your mind, right? And that's the power of controlling and taking ownership of your mindset. So don't discount mindset, right? The computer cannot function without the operating system. And the people who go on to be wildly successful with this program and in their lives in general will not only deeply understand the mindset lessons that we teach, but they'll consistently practice them every single day. And just like the computer can't function without the operating system, right? A car cannot function without the engine. Think about it like this. If you don't get consistent sleep and exercise and eat right, which is all done based on habits and controlling your mindset, if you don't do those things, you won't have energy throughout the day, right? And if you don't have energy, you can't get into a proper work zone. If you can't get into a work zone, you can't efficiently get things done. It's all interconnected. And some people watching this are going to roll their eyes and skip this video and try to get onto the tactics. But the people who are going to become millionaires from this program, and trust me when I tell you guys, multiple people have become millionaires from this exact program. The people who are going to become millionaires from this program are feeling the chills, and they're really starting to see the light bulb come on, because mindset can change your entire life. Right? And I want to come back to my teacher telling me I was bad at math, because this is a really important lesson to understand. At the time, right, I believed her. Because again, I wasn't in a position to question the teacher as a child, right? You're led to believe that the teacher is right and you're meant to follow their teachings. And it's the same thing with a boss or someone in a position of power in your life, right? It doesn't have to just be a teacher. This is just an example to kind of, really illustrate this. And again, what do you think happened, right? Every time a math test came up, I said, I can't do this. And for my whole childhood, I dreaded math tests because I genuinely believed I wasn't good at math just because that one teacher said that. And remember, I can't even remember her name at this point, but I will never forget what she said to me. And that's the power of a chain reaction, because of what one person, right, one completely meaningless person on the grand scale of things said to me. I was plagued my entire childhood into a self-fulfilling prophecy that I was bad at math, right? One meaningless comment from one meaningless person changed my entire perspective on myself and on my own abilities. And, you never know what's going on in people's lives when they say things like this. She could have been going through a divorce. Maybe her dog died the night before, right? It's not relevant to the story what was happening in her life when she said it. All that matters is that one insignificant comment multiplied and grew into a devastating virus in my mind until it affected my entire worldview and existence. And just like how a teacher telling you you're bad at math when you're a kid can make you be horrible at math for life, it's the same thing if you think you're bad at technology, right? If you tell yourself you're bad at technology, which many people do, especially people that are a little bit older, right, who join my program, and there are many people who do that, that's probably why you believe you're bad at technology if you do, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's just an evolution of a thought that has just stemmed and become systemic and taken over your entire mentality. And a really powerful lesson I've learned is that all human beings seek evidence to support what they believe and attempt to reject evidence that goes against it, right? So let me explain so I can really kind of illustrate this. So if my teacher tells me I'm bad at math, right, my current situation says I'm bad at math. If there's a math test coming up, I say, okay, well, I'm doomed to fail. I'm already bad at math. And if I think I'm going to fail, then my actions support that by not even trying, because the evidence of my teacher saying I'm bad at math supports the outcome of me failing my math test. So what happens, right? It means if I already know I'm going to fail my math test, I say, well, what's the point in studying, right? I'm already bad at math. And then because I don't study, I fail the test, and it supports that, negative feedback cycle. But what happens if you flip that same idea on its head completely? If you set a genuine belief that there will be a positive outcome for the future, then a funny thing happens. You take a ton of action towards reaching that outcome, and when you do take a bunch of action, you're exponentially more likely to experience a positive outcome that reinforces your hypothesis, right? This is the visualization that actually works. Picture it enough times, ingrain it, laser etch it into your mind, and eventually with enough consistent, focused action, what you visualized becomes a reality, right? No one is inherently bad at technology or inherently bad at anything. Some people are just more natural with it solely because of their upbringing and experience using it, right? It's a mental block and nothing more when you think you are inherently bad at technology, nothing more. Right? People are not intrinsically dumb. Two people, right? One think they're bad at technology, one doesn't. Both of those people are equally capable of Googling the answer and tutorials and walkthroughs, because those things exist for everything now. But who do you think has the mindset and confidence in themselves to do it, right? The person who has mentally given up before it even begins because they're quote unquote bad at technology, or the person who understands that we all have the same fingers and the same keyboards and the same access to the internet, right? And we all have access to the answers we seek. We just have to have the belief in ourselves that we can do it, right? That is the ultimate advantage. Think about it like this. The only reason people are quote unquote dumb is because they think they're dumb, right? And they've been told they're dumb, and the actions they take are consistent with someone who is dumb. And if you're already dumb, why would you work hard to get smarter, right? It's really as simple as that. And this is coming from someone who thought they were dumb and whose teachers told were dumb too, right? And when you believe that you are not inherently and inevitably bad at anything, and that you can in fact learn anything just as well as anyone else with enough intentional effort and focus, then the world really becomes your oyster, right? And I want to introduce a kind of a mentality and a mindset that completely changed my life, because I've said this a number of times, but the difference between millionaires and everyone else is millionaires have a slightly greater willingness to Google things, right? And that's why I created something called the GIN mentality, right? The GIN, GIN mentality, which stands for Google It Now, right? And while the purpose of this course is to be the most comprehensive tutorial ever made on how to start a wildly successful online business, but the thing is, guys, it's not possible to make a course that answers every single question, right? Somebody in Zimbabwe, for example, setting up their business, I can't include how to set up a business for every country in the entire world. I try to make it as comprehensive as possible, but there will inevitably be situations where you have to Google things to get answers to small questions, right? And you can either let that completely halt all of your progress and all of your momentum, or you can adopt the GIN mentality, right? And you can Google it now, right? And once you have the GIN mentality, you have to catch yourself when you think, well, I don't know how to X, right? I don't know how to blank. And you need to insert instead, well, I don't know how to blank yet. Right? It's so critically important. And then you simply Google it, right? And you watch YouTube tutorials. And by doing that and getting the habit of doing that, all of a sudden you enter the top 1% of people anywhere, of all entrepreneurs, right? I still Google things every single day. And luckily I have, a large team now who can help me with research and Googling, but we Google search and YouTube tutorials every single day. And people with the GIN mentality understand that YouTube and Google literally have tutorials on pretty much everything, right? And the private student group has everything else. But you don't want to just come to the private student group or me or ask anyone right from the start, right? You want to get in the habit of not being a victim. You want to be enabled. You want to be a leader. You want to be somebody who can do something by yourself, right? And like I said before, the difference between millionaires and everyone else is a slightly greater willingness to Google it now, right? Because people who create meaningful success in their lives, they take full responsibility for their results in life. They don't blame anyone else. They don't play the victim, right? People who are victims get nothing in life. And you don't want to be a victim. You don't want to be saying, it's the president's fault, or it's the government, or it's your internet connection, or, you were tired, because the truth is, at the end of the day, no one cares, right? People only care about results. And those people, are saying that life is out of their control. They're just basically bouncing around in life, and whatever happens to them happens, right? Bouncing around with no purpose and no direction. And to be successful, you need two things. You need belief, and you need an invincible focus, right? You need to have the belief that you can be successful, because if you truly believe it, your actions will align with that belief. And with enough consistent actions, you will start to actually get results, right? And when you get results, you get confidence that feeds that initial belief, and the chain reaction literally becomes unstoppable. It's an upward feedback cycle, right? And to answer the question that we talked about at the very beginning of the video about the bamboo tree, it grows 90 feet tall in 5 years. Right? Not 5 weeks. Because at any time, if the person had stopped watering and nurturing and fertilizing that, bamboo tree or dream or whatever you want to talk about from a metaphorical perspective, the bamboo tree would have died in the ground, right? And nourishing your mindset to flourish in an unstoppable force of confidence and upward trending success is the exact same way. It takes consistent and meaningful action, not just for a day, watching a motivational YouTube video or this video or listening to a podcast and then just reverting back to your old habits. I'm talking about real transcension, right? Earth-shattering change. And if you're here listening to this, you're already in the 1%, whether or not you realize it or believe it. Just by being here, you've already taken the first step to, waking up from the matrix. And I get the same question every day. People and my students and everyone ask me, Kevin, what is the difference between your students that get crazy results, right? Your students that turn into millionaires and your students who don't? And the answer is one word, which, probably should be obvious at this point. It's mindset. It affects everything from the business and investment decisions you make to your stress levels, your overall happiness, your feeling of fulfillment. Think about it like this. If you study any pro athlete or any ultra successful business person, they are masters of controlling themselves and controlling their own mindset, because life isn't really about how you perform when things are good. Right? It's more about how you perform when things are going bad or things just aren't great yet. It's really important to understand these things and learn how to protect your downside, right? When things go bad, how to just pull right through it like nothing ever happened, right? This is real, long-term, massive, meaningful improvement and mastery. And the most important thing I can possibly tell you is do the work, right? If you show up, you take notes, you get motivated, and then you don't do the work, I can guarantee you that nothing is going to improve for you, right? If you just come here and listen and do nothing, you're going to get nothing. I guarantee it, right? You have to show up, you have to learn, you have to keep an open mind, but then most importantly, you have to take action. And sometimes people say, well, Kevin, mindset is easy for you. You already made it, right? You already have financial freedom. You already have all this stuff and the houses and the cars. But what people don't realize is mindset is most important when you don't have it. Right? When you don't have financial freedom or time freedom yet, right? When you don't have as much money as you want, that is when you need mindset the most, right? And what people also don't realize is I created my story from my cubicle, right? 17 months before this all started, entirely in my head. Right? I didn't know exactly when it was going to happen or how down to the last detail, but I knew it was going to happen, right? I wrote my history before it happened. I knew I wasn't destined for the 9-to-5 life. I knew I was destined for more. And I took everything that was bad about my past life and I rewrote it as something I was thankful for and experiences I learned from, and I came out stronger, right? And a lot of people drift through life thinking, I'm going to wait until the perfect time, then I'll make an effort. But the reality is you'll be waiting your whole life and it won't happen. You have to intervene in your own life. There is no perfect time. It literally doesn't exist. It's a fallacy. It starts with changing your beliefs, because when you believe something, you'll take action in accordance with those beliefs. And when you have a belief and you take action, you get results and you gain confidence from those results, which feeds your belief and thus your actions. You're never going to have all the information that's required to make a perfect decision. It's literally impossible to make a perfect decision. There's no such thing as a human being being able to make a perfect decision. The human mind simply cannot compute all of the data in the world to be able to make a perfect decision. It's impossible. Not even with supercomputers, anything, can you make a perfect decision. You do the research, you do your due diligence, you watch the course, you take notes, maybe you watch the course a second time without taking notes so you can really kind of understand it rather than just trying to memorize it, and then you execute. Right? It's so easy to stagnate and get stuck learning forever. Don't allow yourself to fall into that trap. Watch it, learn it, take notes, breathe it, understand it, ask questions if you need to, and then take massive action. And when I first started, I made all sorts of mistakes, probably some of which you couldn't even believe. Right? I was super anxious and doubtful in myself. I didn't believe in myself. My friends and family doubted me and said I was crazy for trying this whole entrepreneur thing. And the only person who believed in myself was me. Right? And if you have a wife or a husband or a partner or a friend who believes in you, you're lucky, because I didn't have that. I didn't have a mentor who had proven this works. I didn't have a course. I literally had none of that. And so I want you to realize by being here, you're literally miles ahead of where I started. And you can see what this has become since the moment I started, right? And if you have this huge advantage that I didn't have, think about where you can take this. Right? And this is what most people have to understand. No one starts out with a perfect business and has complete confidence in themselves, right? Everything feels imperfect. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to question whether or not you're doing the right thing. That's how everyone feels about the first version of themselves and their business. It's totally normal, right? It's healthy. It's how everyone felt at first, including me. And it's the exact same way that all of my now millionaire students felt. And it's the same way that every single one of the people who have come through this exact training and listened to this exact video felt when they first started. You just need to understand that, right? You need to, look at the information, give yourself a reasonable amount of time to do the proper research and due diligence, all of which you're going to learn in later videos, right? Nothing I'm going to leave out. And then once you've done that, you make a decision, you stick to it, and then eventually you're going to get enough feedback to improve on your next version, right? Don't allow yourself to overcomplicate things, because allowing yourself to get overwhelmed and feel overwhelmed by all of this is the number one poison to success. And I'm gonna repeat that because it's so incredibly important. Allowing yourself to get overwhelmed and to feel overwhelmed by this, when you can watch these videos as many times as you want, you can take it as fast or as slow as you want. Allowing yourself to get overwhelmed is the number one killer of success. Right? When you're feeling overwhelmed, stop for a bit, play some Xbox, right? Go for a jog, go to the gym, take a nap, right? Smoke a blunt. Yes, smoke a blunt. It's legal now. I'm allowed to say that, all right? And if you enjoy it, do it, right? And then once you're done, come back and approach things one step at a time, right? And don't allow yourself to doubt the course. We have tens of millions of dollars of evidence to back up that this exact process works. We have transformed people from working 9 to 5 jobs, making 30 grand a year to making 30 grand a month, right? Or even 300 grand a month. That's a lot of evidence, right? So don't doubt yourself and don't doubt the course. Don't doubt the blueprint. It works incredibly well. You just need to trust the process, trust yourself, and do the work. And if you do all of that, then the truth is it will work for you. And speaking of the quote unquote truth, one of the best lessons I've learned as an entrepreneur is that it doesn't matter what is true. What matters is what you believe to be true, because with enough consistent, focused actions, it will become true, right? And that sentence is one of the most important things I could possibly teach you. So I'm gonna say it again, right? Print it out, get a tattoo of it on your forehead, write it in Sharpie on your laptop screen, whatever you need to do. It doesn't matter what is true. What matters is what you believe to be true, because with enough consistent actions, it will become true. Right? We have our belief and our reality, and our belief becomes our reality. And if our current reality isn't what we want, then we're doomed unless we change our beliefs about it, right? And we cannot change your reality without first changing your beliefs. It's impossible, right? We have to take action. We have to do things. Thoughts on their own won't do anything. We need to have a thought, and then we need to do an action. And we need to just keep taking action and reflect quickly back and forth between the two. You need to have the belief, you need to have the action, then you need to make it come into existence, and you need to listen to the feedback and adjust the belief in accordance with the actions, right? Your beliefs are just as important as your actions. And as your beliefs are growing, your actions are growing. And as your actions are growing, your confirmed reality is growing. And as your confirmed reality is growing, boom, your beliefs are growing. Everything is feeding off of each other in this invincible upward feedback cycle, right? And to succeed, you must first begin. And to begin, you must first take action. And to take action, you have to have belief in yourself. Right? Because I wasn't smarter than anyone else. There were plenty of people in my high school and my college who were way smarter than me, who got better test scores than me, who got into better schools. And most of them right now, right, I've checked up on them, are making $75K a year, and I make $75K in a day. And so if they were smarter and they got better grades and test scores, then what's the difference, right? Mindset and self-belief. I was never the smartest person, right? But no one believed in themselves and their abilities more than me, right? I can guarantee you that. And I wasn't born that way, right? I worked for that every single day. And it was hard to believe in myself when everyone else in my life, all the external opinions, my parents, my family, my friends, my girlfriend, my coworkers, all said and thought one way, right? With what I like to call the hive mind, and I went against it. The problem is people want to fit in with social circles and adjust their behavior to fit in. Right? People don't want to stir the pot and cause conflict and be disowned, so they never question anything. And without realizing it, they join the hive mind and they attack anyone who questions the collective beliefs of the hive mind. So when I said I was quitting my job to become an entrepreneur, everyone said, "Oh gosh, Kevin, are you sure?" Right? I don't want you to get your hopes up. Don't you know that 87% of businesses fail? Right? Are you sure? I just don't want to see you get hurt. Do you have a backup plan? And I said, hell no, I don't have a backup plan. Why would I have a plan B when all that does is distract me from plan A? Right? And then what happens is 6 months later, 12 months later, all those people who are warning you and giving you advice and trying to suck you back into the 9 to 5 hive mind where they feel comfortable, they see your business explode. And all your friends and family and everyone who told you not to and to be careful, they all say, "Oh, you know what, Kevin? I knew you'd be successful." And it would be very easy to be resentful, right? But I don't blame anyone for any of it. I still love them all, but the point is you will always have a ton of people in the hive mind who are going to question things, and they're going to push against you, and they're going to push against your progress as an entrepreneur. And it is literally make or break for you to form your own opinions and your own viewpoints and to question everything and to become an independent thinker. And I want to teach you to think for yourself and to avoid, right, the biased, delusional hive mind, which makes up much of society. If you want to be successful, if you want to make a ton of money, if you want to live a beautiful life that you hold the steering wheel of, you must become what I like to call a reflective, experimental researcher of your own life. And let me explain what that is. Participants just get stepped on, right? Participants get nothing. You have to learn to become an experimenter, a researcher, a reflector. You have to learn to become intentional, right? Who I am today is not who I was when I was a 9-to-5 drone. If you met me then and you met me now, we are totally different people. One person was very judgmental. One person blamed everything other than himself for where he was at in life. Right? One person was immature and thought that he could do nothing, really make no effort, and he expected the world in return. The people who refuse to change anything about themselves and just want to make more money, how much money do you think they make? Right? They never make any money. The people who are open to change and improvement, they're always the people making the most money, and it's not even close. Right? Being outside of my comfort zone is my new comfort zone. Right? And for most people, they never want to go there. They resist leaving their comfort zone at all costs. And what you believe becomes your reality. We're not just someone and that's it, right? We're always becoming someone. Your identity forms your reality. This is who you are, and this is the way things are, right? And without intent, we're going to experience a random result because life is always moving. We can't just live the life we desire without intent. And if you're not intentional about who you're becoming and what your life becomes, you're just a pinball in the machine of life, just bouncing around endlessly outside of your own control. And that's not where you want to be, right? So the real question you should be asking is, who am I becoming? That is the question. If you ask the question, who am I? If you look at your current situation now and it's not very good, right? Then that belief confirms that reality. You need to change your belief. And instead of saying, who am I? You need to ask the question, who am I becoming? We have to take action. We have to do things. Thoughts on their own won't do anything. And taking action requires being decisive. You can't worry and procrastinate forever about making decisions. One thing every successful person has in common is the ability to make large decisions quickly and accurately. And I don't mean being irrational, right? I mean taking the information presented, evaluating it thoroughly, and then making a decision. You have to make decisions to be successful and intentional and to get the results you want in life. Otherwise, you're going to drown, right? And let me give you an example. When I was looking for my houses in San Diego or Las Vegas or anywhere, I looked at probably 10 houses each time. And after narrowing through, many hundreds of houses, before ever wasting my time actually setting foot physically in them, I always gave myself 2 days to find the perfect place after I did my initial filtering online. So day one, I looked at 5 houses. I knew that none of them were it. It was done, right? I never gave a second thought to any of the first 5 houses that we looked at. On day 2, the first of the 5 houses that I looked at, I knew it was it, right? I said, it's done. My real estate agent said, are you sure? Don't you want to see the rest of the houses we've lined up? She was shocked, right? She'd never seen someone make decisions like that, especially on such a large purchase. And, obviously we looked at comparisons and we made a fair offer and we, had our inspection done and did all of our due diligence. But the point is, guys, 85% of your decisions should be made immediately. Right? Evaluate inputs efficiently, massive certainty, make a decision, it's over. Right? 85% of the decisions in your life should be made immediately. Because remember, mental fatigue is very real. It's science. Right? There's a reason billionaire Mark Zuckerberg, one of the richest people in the world, wears the same t-shirt every day. Because he doesn't want to waste his finite mental energy on meaningless decisions like what to wear. Right, and speaking of billionaires, have you ever actually thought about why some people have more money than others while we all have the exact same amount of time? Because time truly is the one universal constant. It's the one thing that we all share and we all have the exact same amount of time. Right? The answer is because some people work towards automation and infinite scale while other people cripple themselves by only making money by doing things that require them to physically be there or manual work. right? And with a finite number of hours in the day, and constant and continuous distraction in our lives, how do we decide what to spend our time on to produce the results we desire fastest? And a way that I like to do that is something called the Pareto principle, right? This is also known as the 80-20 rule. It's a theory maintaining that 80% of the output from a given situation or system is determined by 20% of the input, right? So 20% of what you spend your time on gives you 80% of the results you want. The other 80% of what you spend your time on does not. Right? And so why does 80-20 happen? Because it's a really important question. It's probably one of the most important questions in the world, or at least in the top 20% of important questions. But think about it. 80% of the planet is water. 20% of the planet is land. 80% of the land is in 20% of the countries. 80% of the sunshine is in 20% of the countries. 80% of the snow and rain is in 20% of the countries. 80% of crime is committed by 20% of the people. 80% of health issues are experienced by 20% of people. 80% of struggle and pain is experienced by 20% of the people. And so if it doesn't matter where you really look, 80-20 presents itself everywhere. In the USA, 80% of the population lives in 20% of the states. Inside a state, 80% of any state population lives in 20% of the cities. And then inside any city, 80% of any city population lives within 20% of the suburbs, right? And I could go on and on. 80% of the traffic jams happen on 20% of the streets. Why does this happen, right? It's something that I like to call the avalanche effect. If you've ever been to a party and one person leaves, all of a sudden everyone starts to leave. So if a lot of people are joining the party, then it's going to start getting positive, more people are joining. But as soon as people start leaving, it's going to start spiraling down, right? Things can spiral up or they can spiral down depending on whether the feedback is positive or negative. And I know we touched on this before, but it's so important to control this upward or downward trend in your life. It's probably literally the most important thing that I can possibly teach you, how to control the trends in your life, because it feeds on itself like a chain reaction that becomes unstoppable. If you get, if you're working hard and you're working towards the right thing and you're getting results, you feel good and you feel confidence, and that confidence enables you to be more decisive. And when you're more decisive, you make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, your business grows and everything just goes so positive, right? But that can also happen negatively, and you need to understand when things are happening negatively or positively and how to control it. Because once you start building up a bunch of money, you start to earn a lot of interest on that money, and that affects more, by adding more money to your bank account, and that feeds back onto the interest on all that money, and it just keeps spiraling up and up and up, right? Not only that, we see the same thing on the internet, like with YouTube videos. As soon as the video starts getting a lot of views, it starts getting more and more views. It has a feedback growth type of effect. And some people, like Jeff Bezos, for example, sometimes make more than $1 billion profit in a day because they've built up their beliefs and they've confirmed those beliefs immeasurably with their actions, and they've built very strong, invincible automation infrastructure and an upward spiraling feedback loop that exponentiates over years, right? And I know that's a lot. I know what I just said is a lot, but these people build these invincible infrastructures of upward feedback cycles, right, that are feeding on themselves and building on themselves and just gaining an unbelievable amount of momentum. And when you're first starting out, you're going to be tempted to do anything other than the work you need to do to be successful and to create that infrastructure and to create that upward trending feedback cycle. Right? This is what the procrastinating human mind does naturally, right? You're starting a brand new chapter in your life that has the potential to change everything. Some things are going to feel challenging. They're going to push you outside of your comfort zone, and you're going to want to do anything and everything else other than the work you know you need to do to reach your goals. And the people who find success, they take 100% responsibility for themselves and their situations. You need to take full responsibility and understand that where you are in life right now is your own doing, right? You did it all. And as you proceed, further into this course, you might catch yourself thinking, wow, Kevin, this is a lot of work, and you're right. It is a lot of work becoming wealthy. It is a lot of work becoming financially free and living the life of your dreams. Right? And remember, I could easily have made this course significantly less detailed and packed with information so that it didn't overwhelm anyone, right? But that would be doing you a massive disservice. And so I put everything you possibly need to be successful and everything that I wish I knew starting out that would have saved me a lot of time and effort and missed opportunities and things that I did at my own expense, right? But it's up to you to remember what I said. If you ever feel yourself becoming overwhelmed, we're here for you. right? You can easily pause the video and go do something relaxing for an hour, right? But set a strict schedule to come back and learn, right? Don't just, go relax and play video games for the rest of the day. Do it for an hour, set an alarm, and then be accountable to yourself to actually start up when you told yourself you would, right? Because if becoming wealthy was easy, everyone would do it. You're literally writing the book of your life, right? Of your legacy. And I can guarantee you that what you are doing right now, this course, this is the smartest and fastest way to do it in a real, meaningful, impactful, scalable, and beautiful way. And to do it, most importantly, in the shortest amount of time, right? Because probably the single most common question that I get over 100 times a day on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, in my Facebook groups, via email, on chats, everywhere is, Kevin, what is the most vital, life-changing, number one piece of advice that you could possibly tell us, right? The number one thing that if nothing else mattered made you successful, right? And the answer is so obvious to me. It literally is because I didn't give up, right? Steve Jobs said a quote that I love. When you look closely, most overnight successes actually took a really long time. Right? And people see successful people how they are now, right? But they forget about all the failures and blood and sweat and tears that it took for the successful people to get to where they are now. And before I did the right things as an entrepreneur, I did the wrong things, right? A lot. I tried to make an iOS app called Quiz Pixel, which was wrong. I tried to start an online travel blog called Eat, Sleep, Trek, Repeat, which was wrong, right? I tried monetizing niche websites with Google AdSense, which was wrong. I tried Amazon Associates, right? Affiliate marketing, Amazon with small websites, which was wrong, right? I did everything wrong, but by doing all the wrong things, I eventually found the right things. And then I was able to remember what the right things were and what the wrong things were, and I just transgressed through every possible variation and found out what worked and what didn't, and eventually got to this point where things worked more often than they didn't, right? That experience is invaluable that you get by trying things. But think about it like this, and this is so important, right? So pay attention. What would have happened if I had done everything wrong and given up before I broke through and found what worked? If I had stopped at any point, right, any failure, any wrong decision, if I had stopped, I would never have reached the point that I'm at now. And I realized that I had literally evolved to my next form, right? I was no longer the same person that I was listening to orders in my cubicle. I had literally become someone who questioned the status quo and didn't listen to the hive mind, but rather have learned to think for myself and come to my own conclusions through careful experimentation and self-reflection, right? And this happens inside this course every single day. Massive, life-shattering transformations. I remember meeting one of my first students, right? One of my very first students ever. She was in her 40s at the time. She was shy. She had a corporate job, and she had been literally brainwashed by society and the cubicle life for decades. Right? And I'm embarrassed now to admit this and to say this, but I remember thinking to myself, wow, she is going to have a really hard time making this entrepreneur thing work. But the thing I didn't realize is she is not the same person now that she was when she joined this course. She became someone else. She used to think success was climbing the corporate ladder, and now she's making $30K a month from home, which is significantly more than she was making at her corporate job, working significantly less hours from the comfort of her own home. And she's making more for herself than she was even after decades in the workforce at her previous job. She made more working for herself, following the exact same blueprint you now have access to, and she did it in 1/100th of the time, and that is powerful. And the funny thing is, I did the exact same thing. And you might be thinking, but Kevin, you're the same person you've always been. And you're right, I do have the same body. I am still Kevin, but I am completely different than I was when I was trapped inside my cubicle at my accounting job. That person lacked confidence. They didn't think outside the box. They didn't question the status quo and the way things are done, right? That person was self-centered and expected the world to change for him without changing himself. He thought money was difficult to get, and he thought he should save his money because that's how you get more money. He thought that you should turn off all the lights to conserve energy around your house. But now that's all changed. I lived every day to the fullest. I enjoy my life and everything inside of it, right? People speak to me differently, that people speak about me differently when I'm not around. Women and men respect me more, and I interact with the world with a newfound and deserved confidence. right? And the way that change was conquering my mind and, more importantly, my habits. Because if you can control your habits even for a day or a week, then the next week becomes a little bit easier, right? And then the next month becomes a little bit easier. And then all of a sudden you have the exponential return of all of this compound interest you accumulate from increased incremental productivity, right? And one of the best ways to change your habits is understanding what I like to call the lazy mind, right? Because when you can control your lazy mind with in the moment decisions, you instantly become 100 times more powerful. And so what exactly is the lazy mind? An exercise I like to do is to imagine how your friends would talk about you in a casual setting without you, right? What would they say about you? Maybe they would say that, you could be successful, but you don't apply yourself, that you drink or party too often, that you lack focus. Or if your friends don't know about your bad habits, you do, right? Because most people, all of us have some bad habits, or at least have things that they could improve. This is how you would define your current character and what you stand for, and how the outside world perceives you, or how they would perceive you if they knew you as well as you know yourself and your current habits. And let me illustrate this with an example. Let's say it's the first thing in the morning when you wake up at 8 a.m., right? You hear your alarm, and the first thought that pops into your head is, oh, Kevin, you can go back to sleep, right? You can just cancel your meetings. You can do them tomorrow. You already have enough money, right? You could just not do anything and watch movies all day, right? Those are the first things that come into your mind, but that isn't you, right? That's your subconscious. That isn't your conscious mind. That is your lazy mind. Right? And you have to learn to recognize when that happens and say to yourself, wait, no. I'm not going to let my lazy mind get away with that, right? Not today. Sometimes I will actually audibly say out loud, not today, lazy mind, right? And I know that sounds ridiculous, and that was probably loud if you're wearing headphones, so I apologize, but you have to gamify your habits, right? When it's a game and when you're in a competition with yourself, you're so much more likely to be consistent and win. Right? And then if I physically force myself using my conscious mind to get up out of bed and go to the gym or to the shower or start my day, then I feel fantastic, right? I feel way better than I would have if I slept in all day. And I think about it like a competition. I'm not going to allow my lazy mind to win. I'm going to beat him, and I'm going to do it every day. And if you do it enough days in a row, your life starts to seriously change for the better. And this is extremely powerful because you no longer fall victim to the lazy and the doubtful voices in your head that are telling you to give up, or to not talk to that beautiful girl that you see at the bar or your coffee shop, or to not push as hard as you can push to, really change your life. Self-doubt is the ultimate killer of success and evolution and growth as a person, right? Self-doubt and allowing yourself to become overwhelmed are the two biggest killers of success. And what you have to understand is that self-doubt is nothing but a devil in our ear that wants us to fail, right? And wants us to be average forever. And when you take a step back and see the little self-doubt devil trying to sabotage you and trying to drag you down, you recognize that self-doubt is just an illusion trying to drag you down when you actually can grow. And you can say, not this time, right? I recognize that self-doubt is coming. I'm going to trust the data. I'm going to trust the work that I put in every day until my beliefs become my reality, right? Because all of us have self-doubt. It's human nature, right? But as you start to experience more success and you get small wins under your belt, it gets easier and easier to ignore self-doubt and to recognize it for what it is. Right? Self-doubt exists because as we evolved in history to protect us from real-world physical danger such as predators, right? We evolved instincts to protect us. Self-doubt, right, literally causes us to doubt our decisions, which increases the likelihood of making the right one and staying safe and continuing with our species, right? But now that we live in a modern-day society, where there isn't impending predators and danger trying to kill us around every corner, we don't need it anymore, even though we evolved with it, right? If you're in a cave and you're a caveman and there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex outside, you can't just stroll out without thinking, wait, well, should I maybe doubt going out into that open, right? Maybe I'm going to get eaten by a predator, right? But now that we don't need that, we still have it from evolution. And so we have to kill it, and we have to learn how to kill it fast. But the problem is it's hardest to kill self-doubt when you're first beginning, right? Because what's the number one way to kill self-doubt? It's experiencing success. Right? But when you're first starting out, you haven't experienced it yet. And so you have to inherently trust me, inherently trust all of the student success stories, inherently trust the thousands of other students in the private group, right? And that's hard for some people. right? They give up because they doubt themselves, they doubt their abilities, they doubt everything, but you have to trust the data, right? Trust the process, trust the blueprint, trust the course, because it's the best way to defeat self-doubt, even if you don't believe in yourself yet. Right? Believe in me. Believe in all of the thousands of students who've made this work before you. And then once you start to build momentum and you start to experience some success, the rest is history. Right? Because truly evolving as a person is when you pull the strings in your daily life and your self-doubt and your lazy mind become the consistent, obedient loser to your conscious mind. And instead of being a slave to your bad habits, you become the master of them. And I've gotten really good at fighting my lazy mind, right? When I wake up in the morning, my lazy mind complains and it moans and it wants to fight and go back to sleep, but my conscious mind knows that I should get up and go to the gym. And then when I get to the gym, my lazy mind complains and moans and says it doesn't feel like working out. And then my lazy mind puts its fists up, my conscious mind grabs a bazooka and blows my lazy mind out of the water, because your mind, like any part of you, is a muscle. Right? The more you exercise and feed that muscle memory of your conscious mind succeeding over your lazy mind, the easier it becomes each time. And here's a story to illustrate this completely. Right? I was so scared to start my business initially that I would wake up and think of, getting out of bed, and then I'd lie to myself about the benefits of staying asleep. I'd say things like, oh, well, if I sleep in, I'll be more focused and alert and really ready to concentrate on work. I would literally lie to myself. And then I would deny the responsibility to improve my life. I'd say things like, it doesn't even matter if I did get up, right? What would change with just one day at the gym? And then I would go back to sleep. And then what would happen is I would regret staying asleep. Later on in the day, I'd regret it, right? And then to make myself feel better, I'd promise myself that was the last time. I promised myself not again. I did this with my business as well. I would start the workday knowing what I needed to do to be successful. And I would lie to myself and I would say, it's okay to do it tomorrow, right? And I would just read some blogs and watch some YouTube videos and post on Instagram. And I would stay stuck in the forever learning mode and deny all responsibility for my financial and business situation. And then later on, I would regret my decision and then promise myself tomorrow is the day. And then I'd repeat it all over again. But when you can separate and you have the introspective and self-reflective ability required to see and recognize the difference between your lazy mind and your conscious mind, everything changes. And it can literally change today. All it takes is one day. And then the next day becomes a little easier, and then the next day, and then the next week, and then the next month. And I learned to observe my lazy mind for what it was, right? And I learned to recognize when it appeared. I learned the pattern. My lazy mind and the habits associated with it had become so strong that it had me totally under its control, and it was constantly dragging me down, distracting me from what I knew I needed to do to reach my dreams, but for some reason still wasn't doing. Right? I learned to fight my lazy mind. I learned to overpower it. I learned to win the battle against myself and my bad habits that had become ingrained in my daily life. I learned my patterns and I took control and evolved into the next better version of myself, because becoming is better than being. Right? An exercise I like to do is define my dreams and then tell as many people as possible that I call accountability partners. Right? Being successful is hard. It's so much easier giving up, really, it is. I always say that you need true love or true hate to make it as an entrepreneur, right? True love for your family or your kids or your wife or your husband, or true hate for your boss or your current life or your job, right? To get through all the roadblocks and bumps and blood, sweat, and tears that's required to build something truly meaningful and life-changing. You really have to have the pressure to succeed from external parties, from your family, from your wife or husband or friends. The more people you tell about your dreams, the better. Right? You want to define your dreams. You want to make it as vivid as possible. Where do you want to live? Literally what city, right? What part of a city? What do you want to do during the day? What are your hobbies? Now tell your exact dreams in as vivid detail as possible to everyone who will listen, right? By the end, people were saying, Kevin, I don't care. And I was saying, I don't care that you don't care. I'm still telling you because I want to hold myself accountable, right? Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell everyone you can think of, because the more people you tell, the more other people that get involved, the more pressure you put on yourself and accountability you put on yourself to actually perform and reach those goals. Right? Because human beings will do more to not look bad in front of other people than they'll do to improve themselves, right? It's a scientific fact. When you tell your husband, when you tell your wife, this is what I'm going to do and I'm 100% serious about it, then it becomes way more real, right? And you're way more likely to do it. Tell her where you're going to live and when, right? Tell her the vacation that you're going to take her on. Tell her everything, right? Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your husband, tell whoever. But the point is, tell as many people as you can to hold yourself accountable, right? And so if we understand that habits are the foundation for success, how do you actually change your habits, right? Because this is probably one of the most important things you could possibly learn to expedite your path to success, because the only difference between millionaires and non-millionaires is consistent daily habits exponentiated over time, right? That is literally the only difference, and Googling helps as well. And so when you take most people who are hardwired to procrastinate, it takes some real effort to get them to take action. And when I first started as an entrepreneur, my brain would scream and it would do anything else than what I knew I needed to do. I would check email and social media and post on Instagram because I was lying to myself that it was adding the most value in my life, when in reality, it was just the easiest thing I knew how to do and felt comfortable doing. I knew that the highest value activities I could do were, product research or getting another paying client or literally adding more profitability to the bottom line of my business. I knew what the highest value activities were. But it wasn't until I figured out the following that I was able to really biohack my habits for the better, right? And here's how I hacked it. When I woke up each morning, I knew the first thing I needed to do was get to my computer, right? Ready to work. And so the only thing I would concentrate on is showering and getting to my computer dressed and ready to go. I wouldn't think about all my responsibilities. I wouldn't think about email. I wouldn't think about the videos I needed to make. I wouldn't think about product research or finding new clients or leads. All I would think about was getting in front of my computer, getting dressed. That was step number one and nothing else, right? And my lazy mind would make every excuse. It would say, Kevin, you're already successful. It's raining outside or it's cold. Let's just sleep a little longer and you'll be more rested. Let's browse Reddit when you wake up for an hour. You love browsing Reddit, or that can all wait till tomorrow. It's really shocking how good the human mind is at rationalizing stagnation, right? Rationalizing inaction, rationalizing not doing anything. And it's critical to become self-aware and spot when your lazy mind attempts to overpower you and to take back control, right? And another trick I would use is basic animalistic reward psychology, right? And that sounds complicated, but it's not. Because the human brain, similar to animals, operates on a rewards basis, right? And what I mean by that is you do a task or something that you know you need to do, something that's the highest value, and then you reward yourself, right? And you start to associate completion of that high value task with the pleasure you receive for the reward. And so, for example, when I did something that was outside my comfort zone or that was hard or that I'd never done before, but that I knew was the highest value activity, I would reward myself with 30 minutes of video games, right? Or a dessert, or watching my favorite Netflix show for 30 minutes, which was my reward time, right? And if your trigger is waking up at 8 a.m., then your high value actions are product research or finding more leads for your business or whatever, right? Then your reward could be 30 minutes of Xbox or reading or yoga or ice cream, right? Or something that you personally love. But you can hack your mind into associating that hard work with the reward you give yourself after you've done that hard work, right? And probably the most critical habit of all is focus. And a strategy that I use for focusing is a simple one, right? I've tried all types of things like natural supplements, apps, right? But the simplest one is usually the one that works for me. And what I literally do is I search in Google for a countdown timer, right? Or I use the clock app on my phone and I set an alarm for 1 hour. Right? Set the timer, turn your phone on airplane mode, put it in a drawer out of your vision. Seriously, put it somewhere where you can't see it. Sit somewhere clean and tidy and start the timer with absolutely no distractions. This is what I like to call deep work, right? Devoid of all distractions, pure focus. Focus is literally defined as having a lack of distraction, and that is the goal that we want to accomplish here. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, two of the richest people in history, were both asked to attribute their success to one thing, right? And without knowing the answer that the other person said, they both responded focus, right? If you can learn to focus, you can do everything. And to help you focus, all you have to do in Google is just search countdown timer. Put your phone on airplane mode, all social media turned off, test yourself. And I know some people are saying, oh, Kevin, it's only an hour, I got this, right? Try it and see how many times your lazy mind and your habitual subconscious tries to reach for your phone, or it tries to, bring it to the front of your mind. It's really a strange thing to be self-aware of, right? I promise you that you'll probably be yearning for your phone, but oftentimes you'll be in the zone, right? And this is what deep work creates. It's like meditation. It takes time and consistent effort. It's like a muscle that has to be trained with repetition. right? And another favorite focus and productivity, hack I've found with myself as an entrepreneur is to only focus on one task per day, not more than one, right? If you know you have to do product research, do only product research. If you know you have to find new profitable leads for your business, only do that, right? It's proven that it takes the human brain up to 3 hours to fully focus on a single task, and constantly bouncing around between different things just kills your overall productivity. Learn to fall in love with learning new things and technology and your work, because these are the things that normal people hate, right? How many times have you heard somebody complain about technology or procrastinate on learning something new or complain and dread going to work? That is what differentiates the masters from the average, right? Most people are so obsessed with the money that they don't even enjoy the work, right? Because all they can think about is the money, and it's a toxic cycle, because even when you reach the goal, you've habituated that unquenchable thirst for more and more, and you can't even enjoy it when you achieve your goals. And trust me on this, I've seen it happen 100 times, and I'm friends with a lot of very wealthy people who don't even have time to enjoy their wealth at all. And Michael Jordan was famous for saying that the way to become the best basketball player in the world is to fall in love with the game. Because if you fall in love with the game, then you're going to be practicing all the time, and you're going to be training all the time, and you're not even going to be thinking about it, right? You just love doing it. And if you love doing it, if you find a spare moment of time anywhere, you're going to do it. Right? And that's how I feel with my online businesses. There's always something new to learn. It's fun, right? There's a puzzle. I love solving it. It's mentally stimulating, and I honestly enjoy it, right? And the crazy thing that happens is, with enough consistent, intentional, focused, directional daily effort, you become the best. Right? No one becomes the best in the world at what they do without falling in love with the work. And an added bonus is, you're just going to be a happier person if you enjoy the process rather than relentlessly grinding towards the goal. Because I promise you, when you reach the goal, angels don't come down from heaven with, everything going perfectly. When you reach the goal, you're probably going to be sitting on your computer in your underwear like I am. Not necessarily right now, but you're probably going to be sitting, in front of your computer. You're going to reach your goal, and, you're going to be like, wow, that was awesome. But if you hated the entire process, it's not going to be worth it, right? And so make it your goal to fall in love with the work you're doing. Learn to love learning itself. Love your products, love your clients, love your customers, love it all. Because if you don't, you're not going to do anything special, and you're going to have a much worse and not as happy time doing it. Right? Because you always want to ground yourself in the present. Don't always plan things days or weeks or months ahead. You know what adds the most value to your business. And if you don't, right, once you finish this course, you will. And now that you know what to focus on, when your lazy mind will do anything to keep you from the highest value things in your business, and you won't always feel like maintaining your momentum, right? Sometimes you won't feel like doing anything, but on those days, it's critical to ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do today that will give me even the tiniest amount of momentum? And that's what you want to focus on, right? You want to prevent having what I like to call 0 days. And no 0 days is a concept that I developed for myself years ago when I didn't feel like working out. I would tell myself, okay, just do one push-up, literally one, right? And once I got over the mental barrier of doing anything at all, I would do one push-up, and then I would do 49 more, because I had broken the initial mental blockade, which is much harder than the actual push-ups themselves. And it's the same exact thing for business, right? It's the same thing with focus, same thing with business. You just have to do something each day. Break the mental barrier, and once you do, you'll often find that it's easier to keep on going, right? It's also critical to understand that as an entrepreneur, there's two sides to focus. There is the side where you have to decide what to focus on, and there's the side where you need to decide what not to focus on. And let me illustrate with a story, right? Most people think you should use Instagram because everyone's using Instagram and it's the new cool thing, right? Therefore, you should use Instagram. But there's a better way to think about it in terms of relativity. So the initial idea is the same, right? You should use Instagram for your business because everyone is using Instagram and it's the new cool thing. But if I compare Instagram, which would take time to learn and master and create an account and make content for, and compare it to other activities that I could use that same time and mental energy for, doing the highest value activity for my business always wins, right? Because when you look at it in terms of relativity, then the relative return of Instagram is much lower because it would decrease my overall results because it would distract me from the things that I know to be the highest return activities. Right? Another example is people saying that this course or any course is a scam because you can find all the information inside of it for free on the internet and books and through years of trial and error and hundreds of thousands of dollars of expenses. And you could say the same thing for any product or service, like a laptop, right? theoretically, you could go out and mine the minerals and the ore and the metal and create the laptop and the chips and the keys and code all the software yourself, but you don't because you literally don't even know how or where to start, and it's infinitely more convenient to buy it from a proven company or mentor than spend years and a ton of money learning how to do it all yourself, when instead you can skip directly to the results immediately, right? And this is a good lesson for most entrepreneurs because you'll always have people telling you that you should download, TikTok and devote effort towards it. But when you're getting started, it's vital for you as an entrepreneur to understand the idea of energy distribution and mental fatigue, right? If you focus on Instagram or TikTok, it takes away from a proven strategy to get you closer to your goals, right? This is shiny object syndrome in perfect, this is shiny object syndrome in perfect form. You have to remain focused in the face of distraction. There's always going to be some new guru or person who's telling you about the next best thing, right? It's all the same. A perfect example to illustrate, mental fatigue is Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs didn't have any furniture in his house. And if you don't believe me, feel free to Google it, right? The reason he didn't is because it's painful for the human mind to have nothing inside your home. You instantly think, what could I put here? What could I put there? And it takes discipline to leave it empty. Right, but he was training himself to think clearly and to use his finite mental energy on decisions that actually matter for his business rather than what furniture to buy. And that's one of the reasons that Apple products are so beautifully simple, right? Apple wasn't so wildly successful because they did more. They were successful because they learned to focus and cut unnecessary distractions and understood that less is often more. Right? And you can do simple things to help enable this. First and foremost, right, turn off push notifications on your phone. Facebook, email, right, Instagram, nothing pushes notifications to your phone because you want to have the time to think clearly and to get into deep work because that is when magic happens. Right? One of the things I've learned as an entrepreneur is that people are all unique, but at the same time, people are all so similar. And almost everyone shares irrefutable commonalities concerning their standards, and this is something that you want to tap into for yourself. Understand that most humans will do nothing to achieve their dreams, but they'll fight like hell not to lose what they have, right? As human beings, we'll do more not to lose something than we will to gain something. And let me illustrate this as always with a story, right? Let's say, for example, there's two car dealerships, right? At one car dealership, the manager says to a salesman, I will lease you this Lamborghini and you can keep it as long as you want, as long as you sell 10 cars per month, right? And the other dealership says to his salesman, if you can sell 10 cars a month, then I'll lease you this Lamborghini. Who do you think is going to work harder? The person who has the Lamborghini, who's felt the roar of the engine and the wind in his hair and seen how people look at him when he drives it, or the person who doesn't have it and can only get it if they work hard, right? Of course, the person who was given the Lamborghini and experienced it, he would do anything to keep that new standard that has been created for himself. People will fight like hell to keep what they have, and as you work consistently and laser focus towards your goals, you start to accumulate more and more, and when you have more, you fight to keep it, right? And remember, only you know if you're actually doing what is most valuable to your business. Only you know if you're watching the course, taking notes, then taking massive action. I can't, and no one in the world can take action for you. And I think if you're still watching this and you're still listening to this, you really understand how powerful mastering this stuff is, but none of it matters if you don't buy in, right? None of it matters if you don't buy in, and I can promise you that, right? And so if you're bought in 100%, what I want you to do is introduce yourself inside of our private family community, right? The largest private community of Amazon sellers in the world, and I want you to post a status that says #TeamNoExcuses. Right? Because remember, most people won't post this, and most people won't buy into improving their mindset, and most people won't buy into the no excuses mentality. But like everything in life, you get out what you put in. And I promise you one thing, the people who do buy in to the mindset, to the blueprint, to the Team No Excuses family, to making massive improvements, those are the people 6 months, 12 months from now that will change everything and will be living their dream lives. I promise you that. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you on the next.